All right, guys, let's get wacky. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a spoiler-filled discussion of the new movie Weapons, directed by, of course, Cregger. Okay, guys, ladies and gentlemen, the people out there in the court, we have officially seen Weapons is now in the public. You guys better go see it because you guys keep talking about it like it's the second coming of Jesus. It better make a lot of money this weekend. But yeah, so Weapons is, of course, Cregger's second film. He, of course, is known for doing Barbarian and The Whitest Kid You Know, which appears on YouTube. And he's back to give us another zany, insane, what the hell did I just watch type of movie. But I can't do that. But I can't do that alone. I have to bring Trivial Theater into the mix with me. She has to see this movie. She, of course, loves these types of movies like, I don't know, Barbarian. And what was that movie that James Wan did with the lady in the back of his head or whatever?
Oh,
Had the
Malignant.
Yeah, Malignant. So
Kind
this
of
is your
dark
type of movie.
comedies. Oh, it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
like
yeah.
this and Fresh, and there's a ton of them. Like it's actually more
Exactly.
dark comedy than it is horror, I would say.
Right, right. And yeah, this has been a very anticipated movie for a lot of people. I was actually quite surprised by that because I like Barbarian. I know you like Barbarian.
I do.
It has two modes to it where it starts out as kind of like an interesting horror film. It turns into a very what the hell did I just watch type of movie. And before we get into spoilers, I can definitely say that this does the exact same thing. It actually does it almost to a T halfway through the movie. You start understanding what this movie truly is. But what was your anticipation for this movie, Triv? What did you think going? Were you excited for this movie? Did it tickle your fancy?
I didn't know a lot about this one going in. Obviously, with Barbarian under its belt, you kind of go, okay, you kind of know generally what to expect. But I
Yeah.
stayed as blind to it as I could. I did see trailers, and the way that the trailers kind of laid everything out, I think they got your interest, but it didn't give you too much as to what it was going to be. Like I personally, it came off to me like it was going to go the zombie route, or some kind of like rage virus or something.
Well, that's the funny part about this movie, and the trailer gives really nothing about what this movie really
It
is
doesn't.
about.
It's
It
a
literally
really
gives you the setup.
it's kind it's it does. And that's kind of like the first 5 minutes without giving too much away. I don't think it's too much to say that it does what you see in the trailer, the way it sets it up. Like that in itself could be its own story, but it's really not. That's like it kind of says, okay, here's the thing. Now we're gonna take you from there, and that's kind of everything that happens after the initial event. But yeah,
Yeah, Zach Krieger as a director has a lot to say about the current state of the United States. He has a lot to say about us as individuals, and yeah, this is quite the movie. But if you guys are wondering what this movie is, at 2:17 a.m. at the middle of the night, a bunch of kids in a classroom that is basically run by Julia Gardner's character disappear, and they blame her and they accuse her for the situation. And then on top of everything, we have Josh Brolin's character is one of the fathers whose son went missing. We of course have a sheriff played by Alden Ehrenreich. We of course have Benedict Wong, who plays the principal. And yeah, it's a movie that basically starts out as one thing, and like Barbarian, completely goes in a different direction. And it was quite the journey. But before we get into like what I truly thought about it, Triv, I'll go to you first. What did you think, without spoiling it? What did you think of this movie overall?
this movie was an incredible slow burn. Like that's
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
it's slow burn and then it goes batshit. That would be the best way I would describe it. They always say that the last say 15, 20 minutes will make or break a movie. And you shouldn't, unless you're completely turned off by a movie. My philosophy has always been you don't walk out of a movie until the credits roll because you don't
Isn't
know
that
what's
how
coming.
wasn't that how Barbarian was though? It was very slow burn, then it kind of straight for the the throat as it
Oh
went
yeah.
on.
Yeah, it did. And that's a lot of like I guess indie horror is such a wide term, but
Yeah.
I think that a lot of indie horror does kind of save that last or that last party trick with good reason until those last 15 minutes. Sometimes it works
Right.
and sometimes it fails miserably, as we've seen over lots of examples in movies of the past year. But yeah, no, I would say that it is incredibly slow burn, but for me at least I think the payoff was more than worth it. And it's not even the movie like slow burn gets a bad rap, but I think it's a good slow burn in this case because you do see different scenarios from different angles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's told in very Rashomon style.
yeah, I would say.
Yeah,
Not
it's
everyone,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say not everyone connects up, but various scenarios you'll see from various angles and yeah, it takes some really interesting turns and
Yeah.
you can make assumptions about some things and there were a few things I could see coming early on, but by and large, like until you get to that point, like it does hit you out of left field.
Well, and that's what I find so unique about 2025 in general and just horror films of this year with stuff like, you saw Together and then you saw
Yep.
Sinners, and they all have a uniqueness about them where they take a genre and they put their interesting spin, whether it be, people of color in the South, or, the idea of couples and the idea of like togetherness and stuff like that. And then you have this movie, which is if you read into the subtext of weapons, you can kind of see what this movie's trying to do. But what makes it so interesting is it has all this setup. It has a very structured story, and you can actually kind of, if you want to honestly think about it, this movie is very similar to Parasite in a lot of respects, with this kind of nature of like society and how ultimately it plays out. But it was just such a fascinating, fresh take on a horror film that doesn't get. I mean, like horror films are a dime a dozen, and you see them like a billion times a year. But it's just like to create something so fresh and so unique, and to deal with that that twist and have it be so natural, and then once again use the Rashomon style and the kind of branching out, I thought was really fascinating. So
I would agree.
I don't.
I think a lot, like I say, I think a lot of indie horror, because it does have to stand out, does take a different route than what you get with a lot of like the big budget stuff. Like for every I Know What You Did Last Summer remake, you've got something like this. And it's been a
Yeah.
really good year for indie horror in that respect. Even the ones that didn't necessarily land, like something like Longlegs, for me personally, it still took a very interesting perspective. It took a time and place, and it did what it did best, and it gave you a unique take on a story.
Yeah, and it's funny too because this movie had a bidding war. I think Jordan Peele bid on this movie, and because of what Zach Krieger did with Barbarian, I think it was Warner Brothers or New Line, whoever gave Zach Krieger $38 million for this movie, and I think he uses it to pretty good effect because if you think about what this movie is doing, the kind of way it has to show from different angles, it kind of unraveled itself when it comes to you'll see this segment, but then you'll see how it plays out later on. Like when we get to is it James or whatever his name is, the drug addict, and you see from his angle, and then you see from Alden Ehrenreich's angle, and you only get like bits and pieces through the Julia Gardner character. It's really fascinating how a story can play out and how it can react and interact with what it's trying to do. So I don't know. I found it a really interesting and really chaotic film that I don't know how you felt, but the ending of this movie made me laugh. And I think that was the intention. It was actually quite
Oh yeah.
funny. I
It's
was
so
busting my I
incredible.
was yeah.
Oh yeah, it was incredibly bombastic. My theater wasn't full, but there was a lot of people in the theater that were out, like belly laughing at the way things were
Yeah.
going.
And I think that's intentional because Zach Krieger's he came from the same realm as like Tim Robinson and Tim and Eric,
Hmm.
where the whitest kids is like kind of that what was that Canadian show, The Kids in the
Oh,
Hall? Was it
yeah, the
yeah,
kids
Kids
in
in
the
the
hall.
Hall?
Yeah.
And then like Monty Python, he comes from that kind of background, and it's fascinating because I think Jordan Peele comes from that background too, of like sketch comedy that is really offbeat and really weird, and can create like different genres in the same kind of story beat that they do. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about with this movie. I mean, it's just a lot. Just going into like details of like not spoiling it, it's crazy. Like everything that happens
Absolutely.
in this movie. I mean, it's I don't know. It's wild.
One thing it's interesting, just looking at the trivia for this one, to capitalize on the themes of the movie, theaters listed showtimes at 2:17, the same time the
Yeah.
kids in the film vanish. I was trying to figure that out. Like I was kind of a dork and I didn't make the connection of like sorry, 2:17 start time. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, that's a very odd time. Normally it's, on a five, or like a five
Yeah.
past or a half past or whatever, and yeah, it's like, oh, 217,
Well,
huh? Okay.
to be fair, going to AMC, the movie didn't start till like 2:25, and that the trailers were like a half hour long. So I mean, that kind of threw it out the window.
Well, you
Fucking
gotta go through all of that to be able to see the awesomeness that is this movie. It's worth it.
sorry about that, guys. I had to switch out my headphones. So talking about this movie, and I don't know how well it's gonna do. I think it should do well, and I hopefully it does well. But I think everybody does pretty good in this movie. I think everybody acts pretty well, and I think it's
Yeah.
a really fun cast. And I actually didn't realize that was Alden Ehrenreich for like a couple minutes there, until I like kind of looked at him, and he plays a very interesting character. And yeah, I don't know. What do you think about the cast?
Oh, very good. I was surprised to see Justin Long show up. It was a small role, but
Yeah, he was in his last movie too, the
nice.
Barbarian. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the characters were, multidimensional. You didn't necessarily like, you rooted for them, but they were flawed, and they all had their stuff. And I mean, the one guy kept getting poked in the face with stuff, and you go, man, poor guy is gonna have like syphilis, HIV, and I don't know, tetanus or something.
Right. And then Julia Gardner's just buying vodka by the by the
Oh my
jugs.
God. I just like, what are you mixing with that? You need to have something more than just like water as a mixer, man.
Right. But yeah, this is also the cinematographer for this movie. Also did Everything Everywhere All at Once, which
Ah,
is pretty cool.
nice. Yeah, that is cool.
Larkin Sipple. But yeah, so that's kind of our non-spoiler thoughts. Was there anything else you want to talk about before we get into spoilers?
Just regarding the trailer, and I know we kind of talked a little bit about it, but this was truly kind of a masterclass, because I saw Naked Gun before this, so
Uh-huh.
not that there's any coordination between those, but you do get a lot of what happens in the trailer happens in the movie, a bit differently. This trailer, it gave you enough to whet your appetite for this. Okay, here's this movie. There's all these kids like running off into the Naruto running off into the darkness, but it doesn't really tell you a lot beyond that, which I really appreciated. So you kind of do go in a little bit blind unless you go looking specifically for stuff. And I don't
Right,
know,
right.
I feel like there's like horror audiences will love this. Your average Joe public viewing people, I'm not so sure. But I've been wrong before, and I hope it does get some love, because it is a really good movie.
Yeah. It's it may go in my top 10 of the year because it's so ballsy and ambitious, and it's one of those movies once again that you just kind of have to watch and see. And I don't know how well it's going to do. It's really kind of fascinating because this movie has a lot of hype behind it. But we saw that with Snakes on a Plane. We saw how much hype that movie had, and it didn't do very well. And Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and sometimes the internet doesn't specify what the actual crowds think. And
Right.
you know,
But they do
as we've
become
seen.
cult, and this certainly does have the
Oh
legs to go
yeah.
the route of cult, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I
Barbarian
was
is
not
kind of like that too, really.
right. And I was happy to see that Warner Brothers didn't slap on 8 logos of the, how they would go Warner
Yeah,
Brothers, the New
yeah,
Line. It was just straight New Line, which was nice. So,
yeah.
but Zach Krieger also had final cut of this movie, which is cool.
That is
He
cool.
was given that, which is cool. But
And it was cut pretty well,
okay,
I'd say.
so
But no complaints as far as the editing of it. It ran a
yeah.
little over 2 hours, but it didn't. There were a couple of points where it probably could have been cut tighter, but overall, yeah, it was a solidly cut movie.
Well, I think the thing is because of how many different, and we'll talk about spoilers like the main characters and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think how it intersects the stories and what it's trying to do. I think yeah, you could bring it down to like an hour and 40 minutes, but I think
No,
it
I don't think
needed
that
that
much.
extra
Like,
time.
it was, a few minutes here and there. I wouldn't have
Yeah,
taken it
yeah,
under 2 hours. It didn't need
right.
that. But I'm just saying that for the 2 hour and 8 minute run, it made
Mhm.
sense for what it was.
Right. Okay. So with that said, we'll get into the spoiler version. So if you have not seen this movie, I recommend going to see it first before coming into the spoiler because it really is a movie I think you should see in the theaters, and not wait. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and spoilers now.
Make sure that you
Okay.
watch it at 2:17 a.m. or
Exactly.
p.m.
If you watch it at 2:17 p.m., it'll hit 5 o'clock New Year's Eve.
Some
Yeah, that was the other
significant
thing.
piece of dialogue will come up at exactly midnight.
Right. That's the other thing. There were so many fucking trailers. It was ridiculous. I get tired of like AMC's like, oh, we need to cut it down. Like, yes, you need to cut the crap at the beginning by like half. Okay, so spoilers for weapons. The first thing I'm gonna ask you, Trev, and
Yeah,
I always come out of horror films are notoriously known to deal with the humanity of people. They're notoriously known for having messages. That's what horror films do.
they tend to.
Yeah, I mean every horror film I've ever seen, everything from Halloween to I mean whatever, like Halloween to The Thing and stuff like that. They all deal with a certain type of even Malignant or yeah, Malignant. They
Oh
all
no,
deal with that kind.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I
So
would
what
say
do you think
that
that
there's a lot of slashers that don't, but no, I get your point though. A good
well,
chunk of
yeah,
horror
I
does.
mean for the most part, like,
Yeah,
I know what you did last summer is about doesn't really have a message.
yeah, it's
It's just
just
really
blood.
stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
too.
So
Don't stand on the
what do
highway.
you so what do you think Zach Krieger is going for in this movie? Like to start out, like what do you think is his overall messaging with his characters, the story behind it, the idea of what weapons represents? What do you think is the overarching theme of this movie?
Oh, honestly, that's a good question. I mean, there's always the jumping to conclusions thing, like, okay, this teacher, well, I guess you could go, okay, education system, this teacher's class, like, all of these kids disappeared. Clearly, it's the teacher's fault, it was on her because, it was the middle of the night and their only connection is the fact that they're, 8 or 9 years old and she's the teacher. So let's blame her. I guess you could go that route as far as education system. Um, as far as other stuff, I mean, don't drink vodka straight. Make sure that you've got. Don't drive around town with witch written on the side of your vehicle. Don't trust random ants that wear like really really short banged red wigs. Honestly, like, and maybe I could just be dense. The only thing that I pulled from it as far as messages go was kind of the education system and like blaming a specific person for the loss of your kids when they had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's me though. I like it's possible I missed stuff like overall that was really all I pulled from it, really.
I mean, yeah, that's part of it. Part of it also has to do with this is what I gathered from it, and I've only seen this movie once, so there's more meaning to this movie. And I was kind of looking over some of the things that what other people were saying just because I was confused, but really what I gather from this is the kids could represent a state of America. The people could represent another state where we're on two different sides. The woman could be like, the person in the middle of all the back and forth between who is right, who is wrong, watching people kind of fall apart as society collapses when a tragedy happens. The idea
I
of
mean, that's
using kit,
humans generally, like the if
yeah,
seven if kids like Sandy Hook, look at anything where kids are involved. People do fall
right.
apart because that is attacking innocence. Like I could see that it doesn't matter if it's here in the Philippines, in Ireland, in Australia, it doesn't matter. That's like an across the board thing for most humans.
Well, I mean, not even that, but I mean, on top of that, like using kids as psychological warfare, as using
Yeah, I could see that.
people to achieve a goal that may be nefarious. You could look at it like a weapon could be the Republicans versus Democrats, and you could look at it like pitting people against other people, and what happens when you take away the thing that's most important, whether it be guns or whether it be civil liberties and stuff like that. And what does that do to people? What does that do to someone who's willing to go above and beyond? There's a lot of things where it's like dealing with the nature of humanity and what we do when we're put into a predicament that is against who we are as human beings and stuff like that. And then, it could be symbolism and stuff like that for society and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's dealing with a lot of tragedy. It's dealing with a lot of
Yeah. I would
think
absolutely say
about
that.
9/11, or think about, as you said, shooting at the movie theater or a school, what happens when you're trying to find answers that you can't get answers to, and when you see the kids disappear, it's like the first thing they're going to do is blame the teacher because it's the same classroom. Well, I mean, clearly we know that the teacher is not the problem. Clearly it's the parents. Like, they're not, they're letting their kids just do whatever they want, as we
I mean,
learn
in
later
this case,
on.
it was the middle of the damn night. There wasn't a lot they could have
Yeah.
done to stop them from, Naruto running out the back door.
Well, but
But
like when you think about it, these kids are picking on this poor kid. What was his name?
Alex, Alex Lilly.
Alex. And we find out that Josh Brolin's son is the one that was mainly picking on the Alex's character. And it feels like kind of like, oh, you cause what, you cause mass destruction, you cause hurt, and it comes back and bites you in the ass, and you pay the price for, whether we attack another country or something like that, and it comes back and who's the one that gets all the comeuppance, stuff like that. It's us. It's
Yeah,
I think I know it's probably a little more deeper than that, but I think that's a lot of what weapons are in general, is attacked a use of creating chaos and chaotic tragedies,
yeah.
and you can
I'll
use
be
that for your.
honest, like
Yeah,
with Gladys and the way that she used the kids, I assumed that she was gonna try to when we found out that there was kind of witchcraft involved, I assumed that she was gonna try and siphon their youth or innocence
that's what
to
she
keep
was
herself
doing.
alive.
That
Really?
but that's yeah, that's exactly what she was
She
doing.
she
Because if you
looked no
watch, if you
different though. She looked no different. Like she didn't get
yeah, but
better
if you
look
think about
with
it, like the idea of like beauty and how people in general want to be like young people, like they want to have
right.
the beauty, with like Botox and stuff like that. It's kind of what it's leaning
Oh
into,
no. I didn't see
because
any real change in her looks. Like there wasn't
well, no,
she
no, it's not the
didn't
change, but
regrow hair.
like
She
her, how like um spunky she became. How once those kids were taken, how how much life she had. There was something about her that changed in like the kind of nature. That's kind of where I was rolling with that. But yeah, I mean, it's almost like she was garnering power from the horrifying, what's that word called? She was garnering power from the misery of others. How
yeah,
she made Benedict Wong kill his husband, and she made him
Misery
go
Loves
after.
Company.
Yeah, yeah. So it's there
I mean,
there
she
is
was
a
just kind of
power.
covering her tracks in that respect. Like,
Well,
you know,
if you look at it from a surface level, that's kind of think that's what it does. But if you look at it from a deeper level, as you said, misery loves company. You look at the fact that she is allowing chaos to consume people, and to the point where people are murdering each other, and they're using it. Zach Krieger's using it in an aspect of like, what can I say, but make it really creative with the sticks and the tree and the mementos and stuff like that. And that's a lot of times what, to create like mass misery, you do it in that kind of way. Look at like Troll or something like that. I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
no, that's
I don't
fair.
know.
Well, I mean, and again, anytime you bring kids into the equation, you're gonna have that. It was
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
how, like, when they finally, when the ending finally happened, and they were so affected by it and so drained by it that, like, they weren't themselves when they came back. I think one of the
Well, I
last
mean,
lines was, "Some of them have regained the ability to speak."
yeah, if you think about it, you look at that, if you look at that from a certain point of view, think about like January 6th, or you look at, the George Floyd, or you look at like what we're dealing with right now. And I'm not trying to take sides, but you look at what we're dealing with right now. We get to a point where we are so manipulated on both sides by so many different chaotic elements that we almost become numb to the thing. And we almost become like catatonic. So
Hmm.
when they snap, and we see what happens when people snap, it usually becomes destructive, and it usually becomes to a point where we are in essence catatonic. So a major tragedy like the death of Gladys by the kids, which I thought was actually quite funny, because the kids are just busting through windows and shit and doors,
Oh,
and
that was hilarious.
yeah, it was great stuff. It was very, very funny. I mean, but it also, the message of like, we could see something like this happen, or the death of the Alden Ehrenreich character, or the the death of like the junkie, and it's just like nobody cares because we've seen it a billion times before. It's that catatonic state that we put ourselves in to get through life, and do we rise up from it? Do we bat an eye from it? It's just I don't know. I find that kind of interesting. I like I said,
Yeah.
I don't mean to come off as preachy or like trying to be smarter than the movie is, but it's just kind of where I was taking from it.
No, I get you, and I think maybe I watched it on a little bit different level. Like I could see the depth of it, but like I said before, as far as the psychological aspect of it, there was a lot more there to it. But the biggest message I saw coming from it was the idea that you're the teacher of these kids, you're responsible for them. They disappeared, it's your fault. That you have to have someone to blame, and that's
Well,
kind of
yeah,
where it
I mean
came
that's
from.
100% true. Like,
Right? No.
Josh Brolin's character is 100% trying to blame the teacher
I
for something. It's like a one-sided argument. It's like instead of seeing both sides as he finally starts to see.
I mean, look, a parent though is gonna do that to some extent. Like, even if it's not your
No, I
fault,
know.
it's
I
still gonna be your fault. So,
no, I get that. It's the state of like we want to blame everyone for our own problems. Like it's more it's more our fault than it is the teacher's fault, because the teacher's doing the best that why look at the way the teacher in this movie, the Juliet character, whatever her name is, try to help Alex out, and it ends up blowing up in her face, and nobody wants to do anything about it because everybody's so scared to say anything. And
yeah.
yeah,
I do think too, with the way like the sheriff was killed and the junkie was killed, like there's so much going on, and like you're being bombarded by so many sides. There's no time
yeah,
to stop and mourn those people's losses because literally they're trying to kill you. So it's like, well, without if you don't want your own face to be beaten in, you kind of have to keep going forward and such. Like the
yeah,
last
and
half of
I
this movie, once they get through, I don't want to spoil that part of it, but like once they get through the different character arcs and where they all kind of come together, like it does go pedal to the metal, and there isn't a lot of time to sit and think about anything. It just goes and goes and
no,
goes.
and I think it's also commentating on police brutality. He beats that kid, and he tries to hide all of it, and like then like he's having sex with his the with her character, and his ex-wife finds out, and yeah, it's a lot of
Is it ex-wife or is it regular wife? Because they were talking about like
oh
trying to
no,
have
I'm
a
sorry, he
kid,
has sex with Justine, who's like I don't know, and then he has
ex-girlfriend or something. Yeah.
yeah, and then his wife I guess finds out because she wants to have a baby or something like that, and she pops up
Ovulation
early. I guess she's the
day.
she's the daughter of the police chief and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's really interesting. I think Amy Madigan, who plays the aunt, I didn't realize she was 74 years old, but she does a nice job. She does a nice job of playing like a really chaotic. I was really confused about the dream sequences, why she keeps popping up in the dreams, but she almost felt like Pennywise a little bit. But it's kind of cool that this movie starts out with a bunch of kids disappearing, and the first couple stories are dealing with like the loss of the children and who's to blame, and then it starts to slowly change as we see Alden Ehrenreich's character, we start to see the junkie, we start to see Benedict Wong's character, and then it goes into a here's a woman who has witch-like abilities, who can take things and command people with powers. I don't know. It was really interesting how it just kind of became a whole completely different movie as it went along. We learned about why Alex is boarded up in this house, has newspaper on it, why the parents look the way they do, and I don't know. What did you think about that kind of that twist turn thing that had there?
Yeah. No, I'm always up for some good witchcrafty type stuff, especially when like it makes sense within the character. It's like, oh, we have this random aunt that we really don't know anything about. She shows up and, wreaks havoc and calls it a day. Um I did like it would have it's one of those things where you have to be careful about how much you give away with in terms of those characters, because sometimes just having the witch be there and do her thing is all you need. But like stuff
Hmm.
like the bell with the six on it, like obviously 666 is one of those numbers, but it would have been nice to have a little bit more on that front. But overall, it doesn't take away from, not knowing that doesn't take away from, the movie itself by any
Well, I
stretch.
mean, what do you think? What do you think about the dream sequences and like, clearly the weapon thing is like a clearly a metaphor for the kids being used as weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But the granny or the aunt pops up in both Julia. Actually, the
all
both
of them,
dream
really.
sequences. Well, yeah, she pops up at like Pennywise in the drug encampment, or whatever, where she's waving. But she pops up in both Julia Gardner's Justine's dream and Archer's Josh Brolin's dream. I'm just curious of like what you take from that, and like, is it voodoo magic? What's going on?
I kind of think that since they were investigating, even at that point, like they're looking deeper and trying to like find their kid, or Josh Brolin is trying to find his kid, and Justine is trying to dig deeper into all this. I think it was probably just subtle. Well, not subtle. I mean, the lady had a face like a clown, but it's like that quote subtle warning to not get involved on their
Well,
subconscious.
but
Like
then
she's
I mean, I guess I get that, and it's kind of interesting when Justine has the dream. She goes in the classroom, and Alex wakes up or puts his head up, and we see the makeup as you see in the back of my picture here. It's just weird. Like, did they've never seen? I don't think they've ever seen this ant before.
Well, that's kind of the thing,
So
you know. It's
yeah.
it's that because you never see her with makeup that intense. Like when
Mhm.
she goes to see the principal, she has makeup that's similar to that. Like it is very exaggerated. But overall, you don't see like the extremely white face. Like it's a lot more scary in the dream sequence for good reason.
Yeah.
But I think it's
It-
that kind of, hey, don't investigate this further, otherwise, you're gonna end up with makeup like this. I'm gonna send my cosmetologist over to you, and man, she's gonna do a makeover you won't forget. Ha 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 ha.
Right, right. Yeah, it's like I said, both dream sequences were pretty awesome because like Josh Brolin's character Archer gets out of bed and he's looking at himself, and
Yeah,
then
that
he
was
like
really
cries, and
well
like
done.
I think I think he's like not really invested into his kid that much. Like he's kind of a misguided parent in a lot of
I'd
ways because
say
of how he
workaholic because like the
yeah.
focus on his job
Right.
and
And then he
stuff.
forgets about the paint stuff and about the siding. And then we find out, why Justine's car has witch on it and stuff like that. It's, there's a lot of stuff going on, and how it reveals itself is really interesting. And I don't
The
know.
fact that he
It's
wrote witch specifically on her car is interesting. Like it was obviously it plays back into Gladys and everything, but
yeah.
it's like you're still driving around like a week later with that, or a month later with that on your car. I think maybe get it pre-detailed, or yeah, I don't know, spray paint over top of it or something.
Right, right. It's almost like she just left it there. She's like, screw it. I'm a
Yeah. Well, it's
drunk.
kind of,
I'm gonna
what it's kind of like is like the Scarlet Letter
yeah, yeah.
to some extent.
It's like Fast Times at Ridgemont High when they wrote little prick on his car. They
That
painted.
too. Would you rather have
Um
witch or a little prick on your car?
right. The stuff with the junkie is fascinating because this is where we really get a little bit about what's going on in the house. We know that we know that the aunt is upstairs, as we learn later on. He can't figure out, but he's in there to steal stuff so he can get money. He goes down to the basement, finds the kids down there, and yeah, it's like a pretty creepy image of when the kids
It
are down there
is.
because you can't see anything. I was waiting for some jump scares, which didn't really happen in this movie. Thank
I was
God.
grateful for that. I was gonna say, yeah, that,
Yeah.
and I think like this kind of horror, it runs psychological, and it's not gonna. I think the only jump scare we kind of had was with Justine's dream of Gladys, sort of, kind of.
And I mean, you could kind of look at like the kids are like positioned like weapons of sort. They're positioned like nuclear, like they're going to be taken one by one and like loaded onto a vehicle and like exploded somewhere or something like that. You
They
could look
also
at
run
like
on
the
soup.
parents. Yeah, they run on soup. Apparently, like salt makes them mad. Apparently,
Oh
they hate
man.
sand. Makes they hate salt like they hate sand. But like I
Campbell's
said,
soup specifically.
exactly. I guess they had a good budget for this, or Campbell's
Oh
paid
yeah.
them a lot of money.
Well, that's the thing.
Um,
Like, and not to sidetrack, but like the not that it's product placement per se, but it was fully products. They go through the grocery store, they go through the liquor store. All of that stuff is visible, so I don't know if they just didn't worry about it or what. But yeah, no, they had,
Right.
especially with Campbell's, they had, and a Coke too. They had the full kit and caboodle for like product placement.
But I do gotta ask you, do you think that based on a true story was just having fun with it?
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah. I mean,
You don't think this is,
it's as true as a damn story as the Conjuring series is, really.
let's see, not based on a true story, but it is inspired by real life events and personal experiences of director Zach Cregger. The film explores themes of grief and missing children. I think I also read that Zach Krieger, one of his friends, died, and so it's kind of like him playing into some of the grief of missing his friend or whatever.
Yeah,
But
that's cool.
um,
Not the
yeah,
losing a
yeah.
friend, but the fact he's working through his guilt or his grief that way.
Which you see that a lot. You see that a lot in a lot of movies, like Wes Anderson, and you see that in I'm trying to think of other directors. David Lynch.
Yeah,
They're always working like David Cronenberg. Like if you watch their movies, they're always like working through their grief of something that happened in their life. Steven
yeah. Well,
Spielberg.
Frank Henenlotter did that with oh, what is it? Not brain dead. Maybe it was brain dead. Anyway, like with Almar, this he dealt with addiction, and it was
Yeah,
really a well done like take on like coming down off of addiction.
he just wanted to be a Frankenhooker.
That's for sure.
No. But yeah, like I said, a lot of times you'll see directors use like real tragedies to like tell their stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
And they're human
but
too.
I
It makes
think
sense. You write a good story based on what you know.
right. Like I told a story. I wrote a story about me missing uh Oreos. I wanted more Oreos.
You know what? How could
Like
you not?
right.
There's a lot of good Oreos out there.
Uh, they have blueberry pie out right now. They're getting
Yeah, I
ready to
saw
have
that.
apple pie a la mode or something like that, which I'm interested.
Ooh, nice.
So going beyond that, what was your favorite like holy crap moments? Like mine was of course Benedict Wong and his crazy chasing
The eyes.
after and like being. I do love horror films that do things where they show somebody like beating in someone's face or something like that, and they keep doing it. And it keeps going and going and going and going and
Hmm.
going to the point where you actually see the face like no longer there. But
Oh yeah. His
um,
face was a
what was
literal
your
beanbag.
right? Yeah, it was crazy. But what was like your favorite holy crap moments? Like another one was Alden Ehrenreich getting stuck with the needle and that whole story story arc. But what about you?
Oh, so it wasn't like when the kids crashed out of the front of the initial house, that was pretty
Uh
great. But just the comedic sequence of them crashing through like every house after that, you've got a couple just having breakfast and all of a sudden these 17 kids come breaking through their whole house, then the next house, then like through the fence. I just the sheer insanity of 8-year-olds just like busting through everything was awesome.
And it's funny when Josh Brolin's character starts walking through all the mess, and
Yeah,
then people
and
are
the
screaming
background.
at him and like, "Look at what they did to our house!" And then he goes
I feel
outside
like
and he's, oh, yeah,
I feel like having the captions on like through that part because there's probably some great cheeky lines in the background.
right. I did go, holy crap, when they started ripping apart Gladys's character. And they like
That was
pulled her face like wide open. Oh my, I was like, oh my god.
and that was
And
after
I'll,
her limbs were like off, off kind of
right,
tossed aside for later.
right.
They're gonna
But I
serve them
think
up like schoolhouse pizza, big square
right.
sections.
But I'll never look at vegetable peelers the same again.
Oh my God. Yeah, that you know what? I wasn't as taken aback by that as I was by the cheese grater and Dead or Evil
Oh,
Dead
I was.
Rises.
This was like 10 times worse because you
Really?
just see it. Yeah, the cheese grater thing was like 2 seconds. This had to be like 30 seconds long. I was like,
Yeah,
oh
that's
my
fair.
god.
I just
I
assume that
can only
that's what
stand so much.
shaving your face is like.
Yeah, but I'm not peeling off my skin.
I mean, if you don't do it right, you are, but
Well, yeah, I mean, true, but
I do like the
yeah, poor
subtle
Alden
plug for
Ehrenreich.
Sinners there. That was great.
Oh yeah. I got to plug Sinners.
Hooray!
I mean, they're both Warner Brothers movies. Warner Brothers having a good year for horror. I can say that much.
Yeah, well, Warner Brothers was good at distributing these pieces. They were
Oh
done by
yeah, they're
other
not good
people, and
at doing things. Yeah, right.
no.
Let's see what else.
Well, I keep distributing them, Warner Brothers, because if you're not doing much else right, but you're doing this right.
But what else happens in this movie? Let me think. I feel like I just watched this movie, but I'm forgetting things.
What did you think of the whole relationship between Gladys and Alex? Like the whole way that she comes in and just
I
kind of takes over.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was scary. I thought it was creepy. It almost seemed like Alex was starting to enjoy what he was doing. Like it was kind of
It
like,
became normal, I think. It became
yeah, I mean,
routine.
like what happens when kids go into a different scenario. I think it's interesting how his parent, like once Gladys is killed, the only character that becomes normal again is Josh Brolin's Archer character.
Hmm.
Everybody else stays catatonic. The parents stay catatonic. The kids stay catatonic for the most part. You're supposed to kind of come to your own conclusion what happens to the kids. It's interesting and sad that Alex goes off to live with another aunt because his parents can't be taken care of.
I did
Um,
I did
yeah,
find it, the more we talk about it, like you look at the way that the kids and the parents kind of post, I guess, trauma. That does kind of relate back to the fact that you go through, like, that could be another thing you could talk about as, being kind of a message in this. You go through a severe trauma piece or, being taken over by an evil witch, and you come out the other side changed. Even if you're yourself, you're still not yourself after it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like trauma and tragedy. I mean, think about what happened after I don't know a violent situation. I mean, after 9/11, after a war of some kind, people change. They become different human beings. The
Yeah.
PTSD and all that nonsense, and it definitely shows that these kids went through some trauma. And there's a scene in Stephen King's It where Richie, is it Richie? Not Richie. Whoever the main character, Bill or something like that, his wife comes out of a catatonic
Oh
state.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Elena
And I
or
was just waiting for like something like that to happen, but Zach Krieger's like, nope, you get to leave it up to your own devices on what happens. So,
well, and even
but
with Alex, like he sees all of these horrors, and he's relatively able to maintain, like, generally a normal quote outlook on things. Like he has to keep doing all of the normal stuff in addition
yeah,
to,
but I
like,
mean,
feeding his catatonic parents, soup.
yeah, but that leads back into like how much of a horror type event can happen to you before you just completely become normalized to the situation.
Oh,
Like how
exactly.
often are we going to be seeing like school shootings before we just kind of go, it's a Monday, I guess there's no school shooting.
Well, but even think about, like, the situations that a kid might have at home. You've got
Yeah,
an abusive parent or whatever, and you have to maintain that air of, like, normality outside. Because if
yeah,
people ask
yeah.
questions, then that, raises more issues that makes life harder for you or for siblings or whatever, or the people
Yeah,
you care about.
absolutely. I mean, look at Harry Potter. He had to go away to this magic school to get away from his crappy aunt and uncle. So, um, what else? Benedict Wong's death was pretty gnarly.
It
His,
was
yeah,
the bulging eyes were
right,
incredible. Like the non-blinking bulgy eyes.
right. Now when he got hit by that car, did he get run over by the car too? Because I mean, when you get hit by a car, I'm not assuming your face explodes in a gook and grime and stuff.
I don't know. I couldn't exactly figure out how he was supposed to have been hit. Cause yeah, his entire the upper half of his face was, unless he got dragged and, like, it
That's
just,
possible.
you know basically his face became road pizza
Probably. I mean, that's
with a
possible.
side of garlic bread,
I mean, yeah, yeah. Became
couple
quite tasty
couple
for a zombie.
couple shakes of red flakes in there,
Right.
pineapple.
I'm kicking you off the podcast.
Please do.
So the ending of this movie basically begets everybody's attacked by a horde of, I don't know, possessed people because they stepped over salt. And so the kid decides to use a stick and he wraps stuff around it and snaps it. And then all the kids go after the ant. And it's kind of funny. It was making me laugh, watching the the ant run across between the two houses, and then also you see all these kids chasing after
Oh, it was
the ant.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Do
then
you
they
think it's a thing where had to become the evil to stop the evil? Like he had to
no, I
become
think it's
like he had to use those tactics to be able
I
to
mean,
save
yeah,
everybody?
but it really is kind of wondering like how the magic works. Is it like does this stick like a magic tree from like I don't know willow or something like that?
I
Like
think
is
it
it
was a hawthorn tree, honestly. Like that's a traditional kind of magic thing.
oh is it yeah because
Hmm.
they never fully explain how she has these abilities. She just kind of shows up like a Snow White the evil witch or something like that.
She came in like a wrecking ball.
But yeah, I mean she's brutally killed by a bunch of kids. And then when Josh Brolin's character pops up and takes his kid, they're just standing there like, yeah, we did a thing, and now we don't know what to do. They're like robots, like evil cyborgs. But yeah, it ends with the whoever's voiceovering the narration just kind of ends right there, and
Yeah, we never
that's
really
when people
do
go,
find
"What
that
the fuck?"
out. Yeah,
Huh?
we never really find that out unless is it Alex doing the narration? It sounded
It
like a
sounds
little
like
girl's
Alex, but
voice.
it's never fully explained who it is, who the narration's
Yeah.
by. So it could be Alex, it could be just some random kid, because I don't know. They never fully explain. I think that's the whole point. I think it's up to you to figure out what's happening. Let's see if it says in the IMDb.
I would assume it's Alex, but honestly, when it started up, it sounded more feminine, but you're also talking about a bunch of 8-year-olds, so
Yeah, I mean, the kids, they
their
don't they
voice
don't
hasn't
grow, they don't hit
changed. Yeah.
puberty till like they're 12 or 13. So,
No, absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, that's pretty much weapons. Like I said, it has a lot of meaning behind it and has a lot of like crazy violence and crazy ideas and takes twists and turns when you should be going left. It decides to go right and leads you down a cliff, like Thelma and Louise at the end.
Yep.
This-
I'm also happy to
uh,
report that I learned how to that was a meth pipe, right? I learned how to clean a meth pipe.
sure. I think that was a meth pipe. Yeah, yeah. You want to you gotta sell your kids or your nieces and nephews iPads and get
Yeah.
nothing for it.
Yeah, just grab all the silverware. Some of it
Yeah.
will be actual silver in theory.
I did laugh when like Josh Brolin's character kept knocking down the meth head. He kept coming up and he's like, he's like, what are you doing? He's like knocking, and he just keeps standing up, and it's pretty funny. And then until he
Oh
finally
yeah.
gets shot. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the cop because they didn't, they didn't deserve any of that, but they got
No.
killed. I
Absolutely.
guess
They
that's
definitely both got their comeuppance more than they deserved. And like between Alex's parents getting stabbed several times in the face with forks and the sheriff getting stabbed in the face with like needles.
yeah,
Oof.
it's crazy. And on top of that, the father has to go to the school and she puts makeup on the guy and
Oh, he recently
cover up
had a
all the
stroke.
yeah, exactly. A
Which I'll
lot
tell
of
you, she was
questionable
much
stuff.
more, yeah, she was much more subtle with his makeup than she was with her own.
Right, right.
The whole
She liked to be a
lipstick
clown.
when she went to see the principal and her makeup was just like stereotypical bad aunt. Oh my God. I was
Right,
laughing my butt
right.
off at
It's
that.
really weird that she's an aunt because she's old for an aunt.
Well,
Like I
great
thought it was her
aunt could
grand I
be.
thought maybe it was his grandmother or something like that, but she's Amy Madigan's like 74 years old, so it was really weird for an 8-year-old to have a aunt that old. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you think like
Maybe
older generations, you've got like you may have had quite a few kids or you have one that's a lot older. Like my grandma, she was the youngest of her family and the oldest was like would have been like 2 generations up from her technically speaking, but they just had kids over such a long time that it can happen.
well, and it's also never fully explained like how this person's the aunt. Like, is it like a trick? Is it? I mean, it just
That's kind of what I thought. Like, oh, there's this aunt that we supposedly have, even though I've never met her.
right. I thought Angelica Houston was gonna pop up and it was gonna be like the witches or something. Who's gonna turn into a mouse.
That would have been cool. That would have added.
But with that said, is there anything else you want to talk about with the movie?
I don't think so. I think it's definitely one. Um, I don't even know what to say about it. Like we've kind of discussed all the spoilers, but if there's still a question in your head to see this, it's definitely slow burn. But the rewards for what you get and staying all the way to the end are definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's quite the interesting movie. So that's
Well,
all I
here's a
have to
question.
say
How
about
does
that.
it did it and I don't know what your expectations were going into this, but how did you feel going into and walking out of this one?
That I watched a movie by a guy who's a madman
I
and
would
a
agree.
crazy person and a genius because these movies, when a horror film works, and it could be a cheesy horror film, it could be a sophisticated horror film like Invasion of Body Snatchers, it could be like, a lot of stuff you guys talk about. If it works, it's good. I mean, horror films are one of the most versatile things on the planet when it comes to filmmaking, and they can be really bad and they can be really good. And this is on the really good side. Like I said, this might hit my top 10. I'm not entirely sure at the moment, but it's definitely one of those films that I'm going to think about for a while, and maybe I'll go see again. I don't know how much I want to do that to myself again, but it's a movie that's going to sit with me, like
Yeah.
Barbarian and Malignant and together.
Fresh. Yeah.
Fresh. Yeah, fresh is takes a hard left turn, a half an hour
Well,
into that movie.
considering the titles don't show up until almost halfway through, it's gonna be
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, and then Sinners. I mean, there's a lot of great horror films coming out, and it's good. I hope Zach Krieger keeps making these really good movies. I mean, even Bring Her Back was a pretty interesting horror film. It was
Oh
very
yeah.
disturbing, but it was
Oh
quite
God.
quite
Yeah.
yeah. The
I'll never look at
Monkey was a
coffee
pretty interesting
tables.
horror film.
Yeah, I'll
What's that?
never look at coffee tables the same after watching
Oh
Bring
yeah,
Her
the
Back.
coffee table as well. Yeah,
Well, the coffee
that too.
table itself as a movie, but the coffee table scene in Bring Her Back.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But any closing thoughts? Anything else?
I don't think so. Definitely check it out. If you can show some love to it in the theater, I think that would be better. But obviously, you have to work within your own schedule and your own means and such. But yeah, either way, definitely worth a watch. But if you can, it is very good on the big screen.
I say go see it. Don't take no for an answer. Pay all the money in the world. Get this movie successful. No, seriously, like go on Tuesday, Wednesday, like when half price or whatever at AMC. It'll usually be pretty good. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And don't
that
forget how
is.
to like. I love the Naruto run. Like back in 2020, like there was a bunch of people that were gonna Naruto run
Oh
to Area
yeah.
51.
The
Like that
the
was
arms
the
back like
whole.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
I
think that
was
was done.
laughing my butt up.
I think he did that on purpose too.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I
think
wouldn't be
that's
surprised. It made sense,
yeah.
and you're gonna get that generational aha thing going. So yeah, it
Right,
was pretty
right.
great.
But anyways, that is our spoiler discussion for Weapons. Now in theaters. Now finally people go see it. Triv, once again, thank you for coming on to talk of this movie with me. Talk of movies as you usually
Absolutely.
do. Where is your content located? What do you do with it? How do you provide it? Tell me
Well,
about it.
at 2:17 in the afternoon, early morning, or any time of day or night, you can stop by my YouTube channel, which is Trivial Theater, for a wide array of random, obscure, and straight up bad movies. I also do riffs of various PSAs in addition to doing one with this guy over here. So yeah, we do a wide variety of content. All of it is either jokey or talking about weird off the wall stuff. So make sure you stop by and say hi.
All lies. I don't do anything. I just work here.
Oh,
As you can
shush.
see, I'm in a classroom right now because there's a weird kid behind me right here. So
I think he's gonna like take aim at the back of your head, man. Just be careful.
yeah.
He's giving
Oh
you
wait,
the
I got
weird
this one.
smile. Yeah, I was gonna say wrong shoulder. He's gonna give you a makeup tutorial, and it's not gonna be pretty.
Right. It actually reminds me. There's a scene in The Simpsons where Homer creates a shotgun makeup thing,
Oh
and he
yeah.
shoots shoots Marge with it. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Um. Anyways, you can reach me at Movie Emporium. That's where all of my content's at. So, without further ado, thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, what do you think of this movie? If you saw it, what do you think overall the uniqueness of it, the idea of it? If you didn't like it, it's perfectly all right. Tell me why. But otherwise, thank you so much. If you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at top to find what's coming next. If you like that video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.
There we go. Hooray! We
Oh wait,
did the thing.
I almost ended the meeting.
Under pressure. Da, 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 da. Okay.